David Marks, a promising young software engineer in Silicon Valley, had it all: ambitious dreams, a supportive girlfriend named Laura, and a great plan to launch a startup within months. They even celebrated with champagne the night he finalized his pitch deck. Laura had promised to support him, both emotionally and financially, but as the launch day neared, she vanished, literally. No texts, no calls. His messages bounced. David's heart broke, but he buried his hurt and forced himself to move. On launch day, David's fledgling app took off unexpectedly. Within hours, funding offers flooded in. In the after-party, he spotted her, Laura, smiling widely with a new partner who seemed more polished and affluent. The sight ignited a fire in him, hurt fused with revenge. He resolved he'd make her regret underestimating him. David began his revenge quietly. He let his app's success speak for him. His social media posts, glowing press coverage, interviews, tacit but clear. He was doing fine without her. Then came an invitation. A public tech conference in New York. David was one of the keynote speakers now. Laura's startup invitation followed, but months too late. He accepted, but planned to use the opportunity to expose her betrayal, albeit subtly. On the stage, as the spotlight shifted to him, he made a few pointed jokes about loyalty and support, weaving them casually into his talk. You never know whose face is glowing next to you until the credits roll. The crowd chuckled, but those few words cut deeper for those who knew. Laura's eyes narrowed, her smile twitching. David walked off stage feeling a mix of triumph and emptiness. He had struck a small blow, but revenge is a dish served most delicious when planned, and he was just getting started. David's short jab at the conference had been just the appetizer. The real feast was still to come. A week later, while scanning LinkedIn, David discovered Laura's new business, a boutique marketing agency, was publicly seeking tech clients. And guess who was boasting as their major client? A mid-sized software firm David had connections with from his early coding days. An idea formed. David didn't want to just humiliate her. He wanted her to feel the same sinking sensation he had felt the night she vanished. He reached out to the CEO of that software firm, a man named Greg. They weren't best friends, but David had once saved Greg's company from a major system crash. Over coffee, David told Greg the truth about Laura, about her manipulative nature, and most importantly, about her habit of taking credit for work she didn't do. He didn't embellish. He didn't have to. The facts were sharp enough. Greg listened, then smiled knowingly. Let me handle this. 2 weeks later, Laura posted a teary, passive-aggressive update on LinkedIn. Sometimes, people you trust try to bring you down, but I'm still standing. David smirked. He knew what that meant. She'd lost Greg's company as a client. But that was just the first domino. David then pulled strings in a subtler way. He recommended another up-and-coming marketing agency to a few of Laura's potential clients, praising their creativity and professionalism. Within a month, 3 more contracts slipped from her fingers. By the time fall arrived, Laura's agency was barely holding on. She reached out to David via a long, apologetic email, claiming she left him because she was scared of holding him back, and that she still believed in him. He didn't reply. Not yet. Silence, he decided, was its own weapon. Instead, David began preparing for his next move, a public one. He was scheduled to receive a prestigious Innovator of the Year award in December, broadcast live on a major tech network. He invited old friends, investors, and through a mutual acquaintance, made sure Laura received an invitation too. Not because he wanted her there as a supporter, but because he wanted her front row when he thanked those who doubted me, locking eyes with her for just a fraction of a second too long. This wasn't about pettiness anymore. This was about reclaiming the narrative, about showing that betrayal didn't break him. It built him into someone untouchable. The night of the award would be his moment, and it would leave a scar she couldn't hide behind fake smiles. The night of the Innovator of the Year award felt electric. The venue glittered with chandeliers and camera flashes, the hum of polite conversation filling the air. David arrived in a tailored black suit, his confidence radiating. Every handshake, every nod from industry giants reminded him how far he had come since those dark months after Laura left. And there she was. Laura stood near the champagne bar, dressed in an emerald gown that screamed, I'm still important." Her laugh was just a touch too loud. Her glances toward David just a fraction too frequent. David didn't approach. He wanted her to watch him from a distance, to feel the gap between who he was now and the man she had abandoned. When his name was called, David walked to the stage under a spotlight, applause washing over him. He delivered his acceptance speech with practiced ease, until he reached the final lines. "And lastly," he said, pausing to scan the crowd, "to those who doubted me, thank you. You lit a fire under me that never went out. You taught me that loyalty is priceless, and that success is the sweetest form of payback." His eyes locked on Laura's. It was only a second, but it was enough. Her smile faltered, and she glanced away, pretending to sip her drink. The room erupted in applause, but David wasn't done. After the ceremony, the after-party buzzed with journalists and investors. David spoke to everyone, ensuring Laura had no chance to corner him. Every time she tried to drift into his circle, he smoothly excused himself to greet someone else, leaving her stranded mid-step. Finally, he caught her reflection in a mirrored wall, watching him, alone, her earlier bravado melting into something smaller, more uncertain. That was the moment David realized something. Her downfall wasn't going to be a single public humiliation. It would be a slow, lingering erosion. Later that night, as he sat in the back of his chauffeured car, award in hand, David sent a brief email to a tech magazine editor he knew. The subject line: "An insight on integrity in business." Attached was a carefully written op-ed about the importance of trust, peppered with a fictionalized but very familiar story of betrayal in the tech world. It didn't name Laura, but the industry gossip machine would fill in the blanks. By morning, the article was live, and David knew the real spotlight had just been turned on. The op-ed spread through the tech community like wildfire. Investors, CEOs, and startups all debated the piece on LinkedIn, Twitter, and private Slack channels. Some praised its honesty. Others speculated about who the untrustworthy partner might be. Laura didn't have to wonder. She knew. Within days, David's inbox filled with messages from people connecting the dots. He didn't confirm anything. He simply responded with, "Interesting times." The ambiguity was his shield, but the effect was devastating for her. Laura's agency started losing potential deals faster than she could pitch. Former clients quietly pulled back. Even her inner circle, those who once championed her, began to distance themselves. In business, reputation was oxygen, and she was running out of air. One evening, David received a text from an unfamiliar number. "David, please, can we talk? Just once. I need you to understand." He didn't respond. Instead, he screenshotted the message, sent it to his best friend Marcus, and typed, "It's starting to hit her." But David's revenge wasn't built on a single blow. It was designed like a chess game, each move calculated. He reached out to a nonprofit he supported, one that taught coding to underprivileged kids. He proposed a partnership between them and several major tech companies he now had influence with. His idea was to host a high-profile charity gala. The hook? Every major media outlet in the tech world would be there. David made sure Laura received an invitation, not from him, but through the event's public relations team. He wanted her to show up thinking this might be a chance to network and prove she was still relevant. When the night came, Laura arrived in another carefully chosen gown, wearing a smile that looked painted on. But as she walked the room, it became painfully clear the important conversations weren't happening around her. Every handshake she offered was polite, but short-lived. People were gravitating toward David, who was at the center of every major discussion. Midway through the event, a journalist asked David about ethics and partnerships. He answered without hesitation. "Integrity is the foundation of trust. Once you lose that, no amount of charm or marketing can bring it back." It was a simple statement, but Laura froze in the background. Several heads turned toward her, the silent implication hanging in the air. By the end of the night, Laura left early, alone, and David knew the final act was just around the corner. Laura's silence after the charity gala was telling. For weeks, David heard nothing from her. No texts, no public jabs, no desperate attempts to reclaim relevance. But he knew better than to think she had given up. People like Laura didn't fade quietly. They clung to any thread they could find. That thread came in the form of a promising new tech conference, one that promised fresh networking opportunities and high-profile media coverage. David's company had been invited to sponsor the keynote stage. He said yes immediately, and then, almost predictably, the organizers announced Laura as one of the smaller breakout session speakers. Perfect. David began planning his last move. He contacted the conference organizers, offering to host an exclusive Founders Fireside panel featuring himself and a handful of top entrepreneurs. The catch? It would be scheduled at the exact same time as Laura's breakout session. When the conference finally arrived, the effect was brutal. As Laura prepared for her session, she glanced across the hall to see David's panel room packed wall-to-wall, cameras rolling, investors mingling in the aisles. Her room? Sparse. Just a few attendees scrolling through their phones, clearly killing time before the next big session. David didn't have to see her to know the humiliation she felt. But fate delivered an extra twist. Midway through his panel, an audience member asked about overcoming betrayal in business. David smiled faintly. The best revenge, he said, is to succeed so completely that those who left you have no choice but to watch from the sidelines. The crowd applauded. Cameras captured the moment. And by the end of the day, that clip was already circulating on social media, racking up thousands of views under hashtags like #SuccessIsRevenge. Laura's reputation couldn't survive the combined blows. The failed agency, the op-ed, the cold shoulders at industry events, and now this public erasure. By the end of the month, her LinkedIn showed she was seeking new opportunities. Within 6 months, she had left the tech world entirely. David, on the other hand, was bigger than ever. His company had secured a second round of funding, his face graced magazine covers, and his voice became a go-to authority on ethics and tech. And yet, in quiet moments, he admitted to himself, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about proving that no betrayal, no matter how deep, could define him. The final move wasn't about crushing her. It was about closing the chapter on his own terms.